Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your Vibe mentor. Let's talk today about imposter syndrome and not feeling qualified or good enough to step into your life purpose. Why does that come up for us? And how do we stop it or prevent it? Right. So far too many heart-centered beings are called to shine their light, but they are held back by these thoughts that cause us to believe that we're not good enough or we're not prepared. We can have these crippling thoughts that tend to cause self-doubt and fear and a somatic response in the body. We will question, who am I to lead? Who am I to dream this big dream? I don't have enough qualifications or experience. We feel like we have to have it all figured out. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we just don't feel ready. We're not prepared in according to our perfectionist voice, right? We believe that if we step into our calling or our purpose, if we follow our dreams, if we claim that we are capable of what we are being called to do, we fear that we might be seen as an imposter. Heaven forbid, even a fraud or unqualified. That's like horrific, especially for those of us who've experienced complex trauma. It really activates the nervous system. We fear that they will see through us and see through our fears, and that they might know that we're not ready, or worst of all, they could use our fears against us, and ultimately the subconscious brain fears being destroyed, right? So it can seem easier to hide, and it certainly seems safer to just not try at all. But it's really not your fault that you feel this way. It's very common to feel this way, and it is known as the imposter syndrome. It can be hard to feel like we can achieve the same success that we see others achieving when we don't see ourselves in the way that we see other leaders or gurus or successful entrepreneurs or business people. Even if we spend a tremendous amount of time focusing on and calling in and trying to manifest success or abundance, when we do receive it, when it finally comes in, we can realize that the responsibility or the prestige that comes with it doesn't equal the way we see ourselves. And so again, that can lead to feeling like an imposter. It's kind of like being an actor playing the role of a pilot. We're wearing the uniform and we're making cheerful announcements, but we struggle to start the plane or even steer it. It can certainly feel easier to just simply not try than to risk looking like a fraud, right? It makes sense that we would feel that way. And because we are so intimately connected with our own thoughts and feelings and emotions, we can feel it very viscerally in our body, but we can't see the thoughts and feelings of emotions or of the other person. All we can do is hear their words and see their actions, and only the ones they even choose to share with us. That can really make us feel like we are more flawed than everyone else is. We can deeply feel our doubts and fears, and yet all we can see is what they choose to show us, this very curated, narrowed, edited version of their life and of the truth, frankly. And that, of course, will lead us to feeling isolated and abnormal. But most of us feel that way. But for those of us who've experienced complex trauma, we feel even more of that. Um, we feel even more of a fraud, or we fear being that person, I should say. We fear stepping into and risking looking like we're trying to be something we're not. We fear doing something wrong, ultimately, at the end of the day. So when we experience being invalidated as a child, it can cause you to feel less than or less capable at many things. Trauma alone will cause you to question, am I enough? And that'll often show up in many various areas of your life. So while imposter syndrome is normal for most human beings, it's amplified for us as spiritual beings. And especially because we chose to come into very difficult lives. We came with a mission and a purpose of shining our light and helping to heal the world, a very beautiful purpose. But because we signed up for some of the most difficult and challenging experiences and childhoods, it causes us again to have that response, the trauma response of, am I enough? And we chose that because it would equip us to gain the ability to help heal others. But we have to be aware that it is different for us, that imposter syndrome is even stronger for us. So you can kind of see the conundrum here, that we came to help heal the world. We came to help shine our light and help bridge the gap from the old world to the new world. And in order to do that, we had to experience very difficult childhoods and traumatic situations. That feeling of unsafety for an extended period of time will create complex trauma in your body and cause you to feel like you are not enough. It will cause you to shrink back and to play small. It activates the nervous system. So you can see how it's not your fault that you feel this fear of doing something wrong, or fear of not being enough, or fear of being unqualified. And yet it was necessary to come to that place so that you can help others heal and help it move us into the new world, right? It can help to look at this inner critic voice that tells us all these unhelpful things with a new perspective. Give it a name and see it as the voice of trauma. Know that it is not your voice and separate and detach yourselves from it. Notice the way it lies to you, that a traumatized brain, the way it changes, has a tendency to perceive threat where there isn't any, or to fear an exaggerated fear, right? We can kind of see the little mouse that shines this big shadow on the wall. So we want to remain as king by asking the question, look at the etymology of that word, and ask yourself a few of these questions. What if being over-prepared is just another way of hiding? What if your unique experiences are enough? They are your true qualifications. What if instead of allowing your trauma response of hypervigilance to make you believe you have to be overqualified, you have to take all the courses and have all the certifications? What if you trust that your journey has uniquely equipped you to make a difference in and of itself? What if waiting for readiness is just an illusion? What if that's the very thing that's holding you back? What if that is your block? What if you choose to believe that you are ready now? And in order to share your light and create positive change, we're going to have to come to that space sometime, now or later. So instead of asking, who am I to do this thing? We should ask, who am I not to do this thing? They say that God has not chosen the qualified, but qualifies the chosen. And that means feeling inadequate is part of the package. It might even be a sign that you're on the right path, but it doesn't mean stop. It means you're going the right way. If you have a dream that has been put on your heart by the divine, that is qualification enough. It is safe to trust the desires of your heart. That is your roadmap. That is what God gave you as a compass, right? The way that we are called to live by the divine is very different. It is not the same as the way that people live in the world today, or that they say we should, right? We can start by knowing that every person has something that disturbs them. They have this agonizing voice that creates some sort of uncomfortable feeling. Every person is flawed and everyone poops. As I like to remind my kids, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all feel imperfect. But on top of that, we also want to remember that if it feels so crippling and so paralyzing to you, you may be dealing with complex trauma. We also want to remember that we chose to come here to be leaders, that we cannot be the same as everyone else, nor can we do the things that other people do the way they do them. We came here to show them a new way, to help bridge the gap between the old and the new world. So stepping into purpose without the world's stamp of approval is part of the process. That's what helps build trust and intimate connection with your creator, so that you can have that unshakable confidence. It all lives within you. We can trust the divine is going to lead you on your path and to provide the experiences necessary so that you will be qualified, because we've been made that promise that our creator will never fail us and never abandon us. So if you still struggle with the fear, if we've gone through all of these questions and you say, yeah, but I just can't get myself to do it, there's still that crippling fear, you may need to work with your body. We have to remove trauma from the body. The body keeps the score. The body remembers the past, whether or not you think of it or want to, right? And it is what causes us to somehow believe that we are unqualified, because the nervous system says it's just not safe, right? So if you didn't feel safe, seen, heard, cared for, or loved for an extended period of time, you likely are dealing with complex trauma. Somatic healing therapies are necessary to remove trauma out of the body. We can't do it without that somatic component. Trauma changes the brain and it changes our body and it puts our nervous system on high alert, right? Even our hair is an extension of our nervous system. So we have all of these different tentacles, if you will, out there kind of sensing whether or not it's safe out there. And in some cases, that can cause us to live in a low level of hypervigilance. We're constantly on guard, bracing for what might come next. And that, of course, will not allow us to move towards something that the subconscious brain has deemed as potentially unsafe. Remembering that this is a subconscious process, which means below our conscious awareness, right? So we don't see it happening. It's hiding out in our blind spot. So if that's the case for you, just remember that no amount of pushing through or bootstrapping or forcing yourself to get over it is going to work. You have to deal with the body and work with somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting. It's absolutely necessary. And this is not about me. This is proven. You can see Dr. Basil van der Kolk's work. You can look at Dr. Gabor Mate. Plenty of research out there that has suggested that the body keeps the score and is required in the healing process. So we can release the trauma and calm the nervous system through these somatic healing therapies. That will help us reduce the perceived threat and free up the energy that is needed for us to move forward the way we want to without these subconscious self-sabotage or triggers or basically being shut down by what our subconscious mind believes is a threat. So this somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting, they will help calm the triggers and restore your confidence in yourself, as well as relieve the body of that feeling of threat so that you can finally return back to who you were before the world changed you, so that you can move through life unimpeded, right? We are moving into a new world. And we want to recognize that this is shifting and changing. If you're here today, you might be part of the early wave of people awakening to this, but this is imminent. It is unstoppable. There is more and more research proving every day that we have to work with the body to remove trauma so that we can show up and be seen in the way that we came here to, right? So the world is starting to recognize that we have to acknowledge the inherent value in each and every single person. We are going to start to acknowledge each person's talents and gifts and purpose early on so that you can start to explore those before everything else gets in the way, right? We are starting to encourage people to pursue their path regardless of their qualifications. And it starts with videos like these, right? So we are watching the birth of this new world right now as we speak. And in order to get there, the world needs you to shine your light. The world needs you to use your talents and gifts to contribute to the collective. They are the only things that are, they can only come from you. No one else can offer them. So we need you, right? You went through that pain so you can learn how to heal and how to help others do the same. There is a way. And if somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting worked for me, and you're also resonating with this message, it can work for you too. So notice the hand that is being stretched out to you. Notice that you don't have to shrink back anymore. You don't have to stay stuck in perpetual suffering. Will you finally choose a new way? Do you choose to recognize in this moment that you don't have to stay in that soul-sucking job? Do you recognize that you don't have to wait for someone to come save you? And in fact, no one is coming to save you. I hate to say that, but it's said in the most loving and kind way that the only one that can save you is you. Yes, I can teach you how, but you have to reach out and accept this hand that is being offered to you. And at the end of the day, the choice is always up to you. You have to ask yourself, do you want to stay where you are? Have you come to the point where you're tired of this? Are you ready to say enough is enough? Because that is when change really, truly happens. That's when you can finally choose to become who you know you were made to be and realign to your original design and step into your purpose. So if you're ready for your new life, join us for the More Than Enough Mastermind and Trauma Spotting Certification course that is starting in just a couple weeks, I think less than 2 weeks now. This is the last week for the lowest possible payment plan. So grab it before it's gone. It literally could not get any cheaper or more accessible, but it is going away soon. I do have to close the doors for until the end of the year. So make sure not to wait. You don't want to miss this opportunity to step into your new life, right? Just click on the link in the description and jump in today. Your new life awaits. I love you, my friend. We'll see you on the next video. Namaste.